TG Geeks, episode 28, July 6, 2015. Mark of all voices, master of what? Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre, you name it, we talk about it. I am Keith Lane, your producer here at TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington here in, it feels like Africa, but it is only Phoenix, Arizona.
This week we have an interview for you, so let's get to it. Yes, this week, folks, we have with us a star of stage, screen, and the occasional video game, Mr. Marc Biagi. Welcome, Mark.
Hey, everybody.
I think today is going to be a rather interesting episode because normally we call our show the Two Gay Geeks, but I have a funny feeling that today we're going to call ourselves the Three Gay Geeks.
I would say that is true.
Good. We didn't want to let
definitely
we didn't want to let that out
always
of the closet
been a geek,
there.
always been gay. So, yeah.
Anyway, tell us about yourself. Tell us why we're interviewing you.
Yeah, why are we interviewing
Why
you?
are we interviewing you?
We're interviewing me today on a variety of subjects. Well, I'm a gay geek. That's one thing. But I'm also a voice actor, as you said. I do a lot of different things in genre works. Right now, I'm appearing in Star Trek Online and Neverwinter and a bunch of different things, which for me, as a fan of Star Trek and a gamer and all that stuff, it really has been an exciting thing for me to be a part of these properties that, I was involved in as a kid and growing up and still am as an adult.
How did you... no, please, more.
Yes, as well as my involvement in BTI, Beyond the Impact, or actually the official name is Origin Beyond the Impact,
yes.
which is a web series
Fabulous.
That's appearing now on Vimeo. And you guys, Keith gave us a great review of. And so we're very excited to hear about that. Plus, you recently interviewed my friend Neil Halford for his great short film that he did recently, The Case of Evil. And Neil and I have actually been planning some collaborative stuff. So look for some stuff from us in the future as well. So
nice. That's good to know.
Sounds great.
What was your desire to pursue this particular profession, if you will?
Oh God, I've wanted to act since I was a kid. I mean, I used to just see these things when I was really little. I got so into Lost in Space, I wanted to be called Will Robinson instead of my own name.
Okay,
so,
that's two of us.
I was a little, I was very much in my own head. I was always putting myself in these fantasy worlds. I loved Star Trek, the original series. I grew up with that, and
I think
we're talking to us here.
We're kindred spirits, Mark. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and I ended up. I mean, Star Trek influenced me so much. I ended up getting my degree in physics, actually.
Wow.
But
really?
Wow,
yeah. I actually have it's just a bachelor's, but
is there any specific field in physics?
Well, my emphasis was more on astrophysics and cosmology.
Oh.
Yeah, so I definitely wanted to be a rocket scientist.
We love you, really. We love you right now. I'm telling you,
Awesome.
Keith and I are fascinated with astrophysics. I mean, studying the works of Brian Greene.
Oh yeah.
And Dr. Michio Kaku, and things like string theory and all that is like, it's just like can't get enough of it.
It's fascinating stuff, and I decided that at the same time I was doing a lot of theater in college and wanted to pursue acting more professionally. I'd done it since I was a kid on and off. And in college, I did a lot more. In fact, I was more well-known at UC Riverside, where I went to school, as in the theater department and dance group than I was in the physics department.
Oh, wow.
But they knew me, for doing both. At the end, my my main advisor, Dr. Nickel there, who was a really great guy, a very quirky guy too. He'd been a great mentor through the whole thing, and I had to talk to him about doing a pass-fail on my last lab thing that I kind of was not very interested in at the time, but needed to graduate. All my other grades were great, but that was one where I was just bad senioritis, kind of done with it, decided I didn't want to go further with it at that time. And he said, there's no shame in being an actor. That stuck with me for a while. It took me a while to get to do it professionally, but it's been something that still it's not a full-time job for me. I wish it were, but I do a lot of different things, and it's nice to have that be part of my career.
It's amazing how many people have this roundabout or circuitous route to the stage or to the screen or to voiceover or whatever.
A lot of people, they end up pursuing one thing, and then turns out that they've got a very unique talent for something that's more creative in an artistic fashion, be it painting, music, acting, comedy, whatever it be, and they end up pursuing that instead.
Absolutely. And I think what's kind of amazing is that here I was a kid, grew up on that, and I do have a degree in physics, and now I'm playing a physicist in BTI.
I was going to ask you about that.
Fascinating.
I just wrote that question down because I wanted to ask you about that. So when you got cast in the role, and I can't remember the doctor's name.
His name is Max Komarov.
Komarov. Now,
what
were the thoughts that were kind of running through your head in terms of getting this particular part? I mean, I'm sure that it wasn't something that you were initially pursuing. I mean, or were you approached to play the part?
I was actually approached. A friend of mine was involved in the production, and they were doing some casting. This is actually almost 2 years ago now. It's been kind of a while to get here because it's an independently produced production. So, not all productions, you hear about a lot of things. I've gotten involved in a lot of things that never came to fruition. This one did, and I'm very glad it did. But, she said, hey, I know of this project. She goes, I know you do voiceover, and we've been talking about working together. Can you do a Russian accent? And I said, yeah, I can. And she goes, well, I have a closed audition tomorrow. Can you come, and can you have a piece already memorized?
Oh, boy.
Preferably in a Russian accent.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was thinking, God, what can I do? What can I do? And I had done the West Coast premiere of a adaptation of Mikhail Bulgakov's A Dog's Heart, which is a science fiction story that he wrote about a dog who, through a Dr. Moreau type process, is transformed into a human. Turns out to be the perfect proletariat, and they decide change him back because he's really awful. And, so that was called Putting on the Dog. I think they call it Heart of a Dog now, and I think it was DeLoss Brown who was the writer of that. And I was in the West Coast premiere. I played Sharik, or Sharikov, when he became a person. Sharik was the dog. It means little ball, I think, in Russian. And I remembered my opening monologue from that. And, that whole play, I did a Russian accent in there, and it was like, my God, I did this play like years ago, and I still have it cemented in my head. So I just made sure I still had it cemented. I changed a couple things a little bit, for the times, and I did that as my audition piece. And then we did some stuff. I read the same day as David Wagner, who plays the main Russian agent in BTI.
Wow.
David's also one of our writers, and
cool.
He, it was kind of interesting because we thought we were both going up against the same part, and we saw each other audition as well, which is a little bit unusual because of where we did that. And David did a really amazing audition as well. Mine was more comedic, and strangely enough, I get cast in the comedic role. His is more dramatic, and he ends up being kind of the heavy Russian agent, although he's got a little comedy in there too. But he actually wrote his audition. It was really an amazing piece that he did as well, and he did a really great job. So it was really exciting that the two of us get to work together. We've become great friends, as well as a lot of the other folks in BTI. We're kind of like a family now. It's been a really fun journey. So yeah, that was one day like a couple of years ago, and then we didn't hear anything for a while. You do a lot of auditions out there.
Right.
You do it, and then you kind of learn as an actor that you kind of, hey, say that was fun, and then you don't hear much sometimes. Sometimes you never hear anything.
Wow.
And then, so I wasn't sure where things were going. He said, yeah, we've got you cast. We want you to play this role. And then it was a while, and I knew Jeff Patton, our producer, had a lot of stuff that he wanted to work into this. He really wanted to do this project right, and I think it shows.
Yeah.
He really did. So he took quite a long time to make sure it was going where he wanted it to go. He's working with a lot of people who were both in front and behind the camera who are fairly new to on-camera work. I probably have more experience than a lot of the people in the cast, but most of that has been doing commercials and industrials. This is my first real big dramatic role.
Wow.
In front of camera. And so, and I'm not alone in that. There are a lot of other people are there. But at the same time, I really think that this is an amazing cast, that it's amazing crew. And you would never know that this is a lot of people who are pretty much unknown that are bringing something like this out. It's really a pleasure to be involved with this level of production and talent.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done.
I remember watching the first part of it, and then I was watching it by myself, and then I stopped it and I said, no, Keith has got to watch this with me, because I was mesmerized, not just by what kind of story we were being told here, but the sheer amazing production value.
Yeah.
Of
It
the
was
entire
fascinating.
project. I was captivated by it in terms of the different kinds of lighting and filters that they were using, the different color palettes, as well as the acting. Holy cow! I mean, we had some great opportunity because honestly, we shot a lot on the weekends.
Wow.
When we could, and it was hard shooting around everybody's schedules. So it took a while for things to really develop. But what Jeff did is he really built ensemble during that time. I mean, we would get together, and you don't always do this with on-camera projects. We actually rehearsed a little bit more like a play.
Oh, okay.
So we really got to know each other and built our characters up and had our relationships both personally and between our characters well cemented before we got on set. And there was a practical reason for that, because when you're only shooting on a limited budget, limited schedule, you really have to try to do everything you can to minimize your costs and time and make sure that things go effectively. Well, we already had our lines. We knew our relationships. We knew how things were going to be shot. So we were able to get on set and just do it. And it was amazing how much work we got done. And Jeff is such a visionary, and the people he's brought together, our AD too, Mike Evans is just an amazing guy on set, and Mario with his camera work. Everybody really came together, and Jeff, he has this vision. It's very much I'm a huge Hitchcock fan, as well as my husband. We have own pretty much everything by Hitchcock.
Wow.
And watch it a lot, and I've seen a lot of the behind the scenes, and Hitch always kind of pre-filmed a film before he got to the set. He always knew how it was going to look. Jeff has that same sort of approach to things and same mentality. It can drive some actors a little bit wonky at first because they kind of want to be told what to do.
Right.
He kind of is going to tell you where he's going to shoot. Sometimes he asks you to do a slight nuance, and that's because for two things. He already knows what he wants to see. He's already seeing it in the camera before he shot it, and when he gets to set, that's what he's doing. He's bringing that same thing, so you know what to expect as an actor, which is a nice thing. And also as an actor, it gives us some freedom too, to sort of, it challenges you to be able to know, here, I'm doing this thing, make that happen. Give yourself the reason why your character needs to do that at that particular time.
Oh,
It uses our craft, which is an important thing.
It gives it a certain honesty, I think, to the performance by allowing that.
Yeah.
It really does. And he really was going more for an edge of realism. I mean, my character is probably one of the few characters that gets to go a little bit outside that bound. I'm kind of the comic relief, as you can kind of see with my character, but we didn't want to go too over the top with him either. I mean, we could very easily take him to a level of a character that's quite clown-like, and we didn't quite want to go there. We wanted the comedy to come across a little bit more naturally and more in its oddness and quirkiness rather than, I mean, I could take it over the top, but it just won't play as well with the rest of the story. So we're making sure to keep him in bounds, but there's going to be funny. I mean, there was some funny already that happened with him, but there will be more.
Yeah. In my review, I had said that there was one character that really just annoyed the heck out of me. And
was it me?
No,
No, it was.
Thank God.
But here comes the irony.
No, it was the FBI agent, and then I realized that's the way he was written.
Yes,
it wasn't the actor; it's the way he was written. The part was written, and then I, after the fact, realized he was a newbie FBI agent, and it was just like he was a bumbling idiot, and
Yeah,
he was playing it
Travis's
perfectly.
Travis is a great guy, and his character, Agent Shepard, you're going to sort of see him emerge. And you're right, he is a new agent. He's kind of being teased by his fellow agents a little bit, but this is pretty much an important mission, and it's something that they didn't necessarily know how important it was at the time, or they might have assigned somebody else to the job.
Right.
But he's going to be emerging into this whole arc that's going on of things and uncovering stuff. And I think you're going to see some different sides of him as we go forward that are very different.
I'm very excited about that because Keith and I had the conversation where he says, he's the one guy I didn't like. And I'm like, really? He was actually my favorite character in the entire
I'm glad
thing.
to hear that. Travis will be too, I'm sure.
Because I've seen a lot of web productions, and mostly they've been of a Star Trek nature, and only recently has the quality of the acting really start to rise.
Aren't some of them amazing?
Some of them have really become very good.
Away.
Yeah,
I can't wait for Axanar personally.
I'm very excited about Axanar. Yeah, we'll touch on that later.
I was actually quite pleased the other day that Axanar started following us.
Oh,
Twitter.
that's great.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I've seen some of the earlier great ambition, not so great execution, independent projects, and sadly a lot of them were Star Trek. And in many cases, the acting was just very, very, sorely lacking. I have a very low bar when it comes to expectations. And I'm watching this, I was just totally blown away by the quality of the acting, especially by Agent Shepard. As it felt so real and so honest that it just hooked me in. I couldn't stop watching. And you want that sometimes, especially if you're going in blind to a new movie, series, whatever.
Sure.
Sometimes, especially if you're really trying to take your time with building the plot. And I kind of get the feeling that, Jeff maybe kind of took a lesson out of the Joe Michael Straczynski School of Writing.
Sure.
Because he's doing very slow, very methodical, planned out universe building.
Yes, that's very true. In fact, BTI itself wasn't intended to be a long-term project. It's kind of grown into something more. Origin, which is at the very start of the name, is actually a series of books that he's already written.
Oh, wow.
He's got the screenplays for them, and these are feature films.
Wow.
And the idea is that Beyond the Impact is kind of the prelude to the first feature, which we really hope to see starting in production next year.
Oh, wow.
Some of these characters from BTI will fold into that. Some will not. Some of them have unique stories that are just within the BTI arc. Some of them will actually continue on into the feature film and hopefully beyond.
Wow. Well, we love the series.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where this is going to go.
It's like, when is the next one being released? I got to see it.
Well, I can promise you that we're working on pre-production right now. I know that scripts are getting close to the point where I haven't seen it yet, but I know some of the things that are going to happen.
Oh, cool.
I can't tell you specifics, of course, but I can say that you're going to find some stuff out. And a lot of what you're going to find out is going to come through a love story. It's really a love story of a couple people brought together. I'm not going to tell you who those
I've got
are.
A good idea who.
I think you have a good guess.
It wasn't hard to figure out watching the first part.
Yeah.
It was pretty telegraphed.
And
no, I don't believe it's between Shepard and our Russian friend. No.
Yeah, no, probably not that one. No.
Although that would be interesting.
They are really good friends. I mean, David and Travis, who play... why am I forgetting David's character's name right now?
I can't remember his name either.
But they have excellent... Isn't that terrible? I'm on the production. I should know.
But they have excellent chemistry together.
Oh, they do. They're fantastic, and they're like Mutt and Jeff. I mean, they bounce stuff off of each other, and we all get along really, really well. And but the two of them have this great chemistry that they've developed off camera as well as on. But on camera, I really enjoyed seeing how it played on camera, because there's going to be a whole emerging sort of thing with that partnership, and also the introduction of the new agent that Kaimi is playing.
Did we see her at Crow?
Yes, she came in at Crow at the very end.
Yeah.
And she's there's more to the mystery there, and she's a bit more experienced than Shepard is, and she's going to be bringing a different angle into the story story. So there's all these different stories that build together. That's why I like being involved in this project, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying it because it's very story driven. It's very much about the acting and the characters. We're not overly relying on special effects. We're not overly relying on a heavy duty action oriented premise. So there will be some action, though. I will tell you that there's definitely going to be some action in the near future.
Well, that's cool.
As far as the series is concerned, and we will be seeing more of the science fiction element coming to fruition and finding out what really did happen in the desert some 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
And why is that so important today?
That was one of my points I think I made in the review as well, is they're releasing little pieces of information, and I look forward to more pieces being released and not being like Lost. Which,
Sure.
Yeah, which is all a bunch of red herrings.
Yeah, there was I think that there's a difference in Lost. Compared to that, we really do have a limited arc that we're going for.
Right.
And we do have it all plotted out and where it's supposed to end up. Now, there have been some changes in that process, and some of that has come through the development process. Some of that is these aha ideas with some of the casting and some capabilities of certain actors that have gotten woven into the production. Where was I going with all this? Lost my train of thought.
We're just talking.
Hang on a sec.
I know. I hate when you get lost in the middle of a conversation.
You're talking about Lost and story arcs.
Yeah.
Yes,
there we go.
Lost and story. I got lost. Okay?
We got lost in story
I really
arc.
got lost because of Lost. No, there will be things that will be revealed. I mean, you will find out answers to things. So
Good.
there are some definitive answers that you're going to get to certain things, but maybe not complete answers, because again, the idea is that this leads to a feature.
Well, of course.
As well.
Well, actually,
there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm gonna disagree with you on a little tiny point here.
Sure.
And actually, this is in everybody's favor. You made the comment that it's more story driven than character driven. I would actually
Lost was, yeah.
Well, but in terms of BTI, I would say not the case, because as I alluded to earlier, Jeff is taking his time building the universe in which this entire story takes place.
True.
And to ensure that you hook your viewer, you've got to give them something that's going to grab them. It's not just the mystery, because if the mystery's drawn out too long, then they're going to lose interest. So you got to give them something else. You give them interesting people.
Exactly. So it's story
and
and
I think
character.
we're all pretty real people. They're people that you would really see or meet. They're the types of people that you would expect to find in real life. And he's done a great job at casting. The cast, like I said, has been terrific in that regard. And what I love is there's so many different types of people. I mean, you've got the military aspect, you've got the intelligence community, you've got sort of this corporate science thing going on. You've got regular kind of people at a diner that run this thing, and people who are involved from the area where this event actually happened.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a lot of different things kind of woven into that story. We've got a love story, we've got intrigue, suspense, a lot of different elements that I think really it's kind of a magical formula that really works really nicely together.
Yeah, I think it's great, and we can't wait to see the next output.
Well, thank you. We're excited. We'll be excited, and believe me, it's you're not going to have to wait terribly long. We should be filming early fall.
Oh, cool.
And we have pretty tight production schedule. Instead of shooting more gradually, we're going to be shooting in a pretty tight production schedule. We're going to have some new locations as well. It should be very fun ride. I think you guys are really going to enjoy where we go.
Is there a projected release date for the next installment?
I'm not sure. I know that we've been talking about fall. We're going to film, and then we're going to start turning things around pretty soon after we put down the footage. So I don't know how much post there needs to be done, but I would expect you'll see it before the end of the year. You'll start seeing things, if not the whole thing.
Cool.
I'm not since we've got you, and you just reminded me of something. One thing that Keith and I noticed when watching it, and you may know the answer, you may not, and if you don't, that's okay. But one thing that we both commented on was the score.
Yeah, it's an amazing score, isn't it? I just like to go back sometimes and play the music. Jeff comes from a background in the recording industry, so he used to work in engineering and production in doing actual albums for major stars. And so he has an ear for music. When he played us the scores and the music that he licensed for this and got involved, we were amazed. I love it. I don't really know who everybody is that was involved on that end. I could probably look it up. It's terrible that I don't. It works really, really well with our story, and I just love the theme.
Yeah. What did I say? It was kind of
You
Hans Zimmerish.
Yeah, you said Hans
versus
Zimmerish.
Daft Punk.
And Daft
a little
Punk.
bit.
Yeah, at times it definitely has a sort of Hans Zimmer quality to it. At times it reminds me of Bear McCreary a little bit too. Has a couple elements of that. I mean, Bear has his own style that's very, very specific, but there are elements of that that I feel at it in a couple points too. It was just, it's great. I'm very happy with how that came together.
Yeah, Keith said that it fit, and I think it was just such a perfect combination of elements to make it what I think has got to be one of the strongest, if not the strongest, original sci-fi web series that I've ever seen be released.
Well, thank you. I've seen a lot of other web series out there, and there's a lot of varied quality, as you've said, but we feel very strongly that we put out a very great product, and we really, that's something that we really love and believe in, and we think looks like you could put it on broadcast TV right now or on the web or where, I mean, in a theater. You could play it in a theater.
Absolutely.
It was shot at very high definition too.
Yeah.
So we didn't just do HD. I believe a lot of the footage was shot 4K.
I was going to say, it looks very 4K.
Yeah, we shot most of it 4K so that we had some flexibility in how he could do certain things. So I think Black Magic was what they shot a lot of it with. So
wow.
That's not really my end of stuff on the technical side, but it was still, I love the way it looks.
Yeah, it looks great.
It's beautiful to watch at the same time. I mean, it's something, it's a feast for the eyes. And how Keith pointed out in his review, changing the palette here and there can also be very emotive.
Yeah,
it really does, doesn't it? It really changes the mood.
Yeah, especially at the beginning.
Piece.
At the beginning, it feels like the era that it was supposed to be.
He did a really good job of setting that, and I love the way that whole opening sequence was shot. It was when he showed us the storyboard. Actually, before it was shot, he showed us the storyboard, and he kind of played the theme, and he talked us through the whole process, and we were just like, our jaws dropped, and we hadn't even seen it on film yet.
Wow.
That's how powerful Jeff's vision is and he knows where this whole thing is going. He's got the stuff there. In fact, you're going to find once we release some of the future parts, you could go back to the beginning and you're going to see things that you didn't see before.
Right.
Excellent.
There are little things sort of hidden in interactions, little looks, little this and that even the actors didn't really realize it at first, but are very important to the story. And they're all going to be kind of revealed, and you're going to go back and you're going, oh my God, that would they talked about that there. That's actually what was going on.
Exactly.
Now, you've said that you obviously cannot talk too much about where this is going to go,
sure,
in terms of detail. But for anybody who's watching and is interested in seeing you on the screen, of course,
right.
You're introduced very much towards the latter part of this first installment.
Sure.
How can you give us any kind of clue how far or how much your character is going to be developed in the future installments?
A lot. I will tell you that my arc is pretty long, and kind of my character is kind of going to be one of the things that kind of cements things going forward. That I can say.
Oh, cool.
So
Incredible.
You'll see more of me and more of my character, because there's some things that in the science aspect that ties much more to the science fiction side of things, which will start building and be revealed.
Oh, wow.
And we'll see more of those elements coming through. And my character will be the one to kind of bring that through to all of you.
So now we have to get Jeff on the show.
Yeah, we definitely got to interview Jeff. Very excited.
And I'm throwing
to
that out there, Jeff.
Yeah, we definitely.
He would. I'm telling you, I'm sure he would love to come on. In fact, he's already talked about it. So I think you will hear from him, and I'm sure he'll tease you some more. Yeah, my character definitely has some important elements to the story. In fact, I tie a lot. My character, I don't know if it was clear from the thing or not, and this isn't spoiling anything. I was kind of the protege of Dr. Schmidt, who is the missing scientist.
That's kind of hinted at a bit.
Yeah.
And my character has worked with him for quite a long time, and now with Schmidt missing, I'm kind of the one holding the bag. I'm kind of moving into this position where I wasn't necessarily ever really prepared for in terms of what Crow is expecting of me and what is really going to go on from the Crow side of things. So.
Wow.
The one thing that I really have to tip my hat to Jeff about in terms of his filmmaking with this is he really manages to kind of he shows his hand a little bit when it comes to where the story's going to go, and he simply does that through the style of the filmmaking. When we're inside Crow, and he uses sort of he kind of gives the palette a bit of a blue feel to it, and all I could do is, when watching this, the only thought that was running through my head is, oh no, this is not going to go well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you see that boardroom and you see our boss, who's scary, and her assistant, who is in some ways scarier.
Yeah, I'm not sure who I should really be afraid of.
Yeah. I think the assistant, she's a little more creepy.
Yeah, she really kind of Canberra is totally not that in regular life. She's really total sweetheart. And we get along great. But my character definitely is intimidated by her.
Oh, wow.
She has such a great presence.
I think a tree would be intimidated by her.
Yes. Yeah, I know, it's scary, huh?
Yeah, she's got. I would never want to play poker with her.
Yeah.
I call her my little fembot.
Oh, yeah.
I could believe that.
All right, so
I'm not spoiling anything. I'm not saying that she is one, but she just reminds me kind of that a little bit.
Yeah.
In the way that she's portrayed. And there are reasons, I guess, that we're going to find out more with her character of why she is the way she is.
Okay.
Cool. Now, there's this. You brought something up when you were talking about your audition process, and this.
Yeah.
When I was reading your bio a little earlier, I said this is something I really wanted to ask you. Now, you talked about when you were trying to when you're going to audition for Beyond the Impact, how you had this Russian scene. Now, if there's ever a time where you need to revisit a voice or a dialect that you haven't done in a long time, is it like just stored in the recesses of your brain, or do you find yourself having to actually go back, listen to a recording in order to kind of bring it to the front again?
It depends on what it is, but largely it is going back in your body and your mind, your imagination. Actors, we use our imagination a lot to put ourselves in a place and to be that character. And often with a voice, we use something called a hook line, a standard line that that character says, and you can say it that way, and that totally can get you into the moment. If I want to do old Obi-Wan, it's something like, Sand people always ride single file to hide their numbers. Something like that. You can get into the character because of something like that.
So it's kind of a method acting of sorts?
In a way, I guess it is kind of method. It's relying on sense memory. I remember where my voice is placed. I remember how my body does things.
Wow.
And I do that with different characters. I really truly embody characters. People have remarked on that before. Some voice actors, when they see them, they don't necessarily change their movement as much. My whole face, my demeanor, my body, I will change that for a certain character or delivery.
Right.
Sometimes you look like a fool. You have to be willing to look kind of goofy or a fool sometimes to get certain voices out. And I'm not saying that all your voices that you would do would ever work for an on-camera thing.
Right.
Sometimes you can create something that's really great, and you would never play that character on camera. But that's one of the great things about voiceover is I can play a teenager, I can play an old man, and I'm not either of those things, and still be believable.
Voiceover is, I find it fascinating. You just hear all these voices. We're big Pixar fans, and hearing all these different voices and different people doing those voices, and all of the voiceover that we've heard all of our lives, the people don't look like those characters. No,
they don't, not at all. It's kind of funny that you're able to channel all these different types of accents and dialects. And when you can do that, I feel very lucky to be one of those actors who has this in my tool belt that I can draw in, because it really gives me a lot more options and characters to play that way. I can bring in a voice and add that as an element in addition to all the characterization and everything else that I can do.
Right.
So it's really a strong asset for me that I love to use. I used it a lot in improv. I use it in my voiceover work, of course, because but I use it on stage too. And that's where I really kind of started with it. And then it really led me into VO. I really wasn't intending to do as much VO when I first was going to do acting. I was going to mostly do stage, kind of went to a VO workshop thing to see about, I got to loop my films, if I'm ever in film or TV, And for those of you out there in the audience who don't know what we're talking about, looping or ADR, that's when you have to take the dialogue and there might be a problem with noise or something that was recorded on set. So they'll have you re-recorded in the studio. So that's what we're talking about. And I wanted to feel comfortable doing that. And I always thought he did pretty cool voices, but I had no idea how much fun it was. And I always wanted to do cartoon voices ever since I was a kid. And now I do.
So you did a workshop and it's taken over your life.
Yeah, kind of. And I mean, I'll tell you that when you do stage is such a great experience because you really get into your characters, spend a lot of time, you know them inside out, you develop personal relationships with your cast that are really kind of great, and it's very intense for a couple months, and then you never see them again. So it kind of, I get this post-production blues. I get really sad. Oh my God, I'm never going to work with you again. Bye. It's like it just happens instantly. But with VO, you have a big challenge as an actor. You have to go in there. A lot of times you don't have your script in advance. You have to read cold. You have to, you don't have a fellow actor often to work with. Almost always you're in the booth by yourself.
Wow, that's amazing how that does happen. And I've just come to realize that in the last several years that most of these people that do voiceover, they're doing it totally alone.
We rely heavily upon the director and producer telling us, kind of what the other actors are doing or giving us that. Sometimes if we're lucky, we get to hear a playback, and in real lucky cases, you do get to do ensemble recording or, double in the booth together with the person. But those are more of a rarity.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that Pixar with, like, say, Monsters Incorporated, and I believe they also did this with Monsters University, how they got both John Goodman and Billy Crystal in the same room together, because it turns out that their on-screen chemistry was just so incredibly strong. The way that they just bounced off of each other, and I've seen other shows that do that. I've heard Chris Hardwick talk about. Oh, shoot, there was one show that he did. I can't remember the name of it, but he did it with Rob Paulson. And they commented how the entire cast would always be in the room. And it also had, like, Maurice LaMarche.
Oh, yeah.
In between takes, or sometimes even during the take, it would devolve into utter chaos.
Oh, it can. That's the other problem. You get too many of us actors together, and it's like herding cats. A little one-upsmanship. Somebody starts doing this voice, and then you get onto a riff on this or that, and all.
Yeah, but that's got to be one.
And comedy ensue.
I was going to say that's got to be one heck of a blooper reel. I would love to own.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they can record every bit of it.
And they love it, and then they go, okay, let's get back to work.
Yeah, meanwhile, everybody in the control booth is, on the floor in hysterics because of everything that's going on. It's like, geez, I wish we could release this stuff.
It's so true. It's so true. And I think sometimes occasionally they do make them into blooper reels that they do, or they'll animate a little bit extra that they do some of this stuff with. But most of that's just priceless for the people who are there, and nobody else gets to be a part of that. And that is a fun moment. Yeah. But I wish I had more of those types of things. And right now more of my stuff is more solo, but occasionally I do get those, and they're fun.
So tell us about what some of the voiceover work that you have done.
Oh, boy. I've done a lot, primarily video game work. Right now, I'm doing work for Star Trek Online and Neverwinter. In fact, I just had an episode come out with Star Trek Online that deals kind of with crossover between the DS9 universe and the Voyager universe.
Oh, wow.
And so...
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Well, their whole timeline is kind of set a little bit in the future from where Voyager ended.
So Voyager's home now.
Yeah, exactly.
For you Star Trek geeks.
And Aaron Eisenberg, who played Nog, came back to play his same character Nog as a captain now.
Oh, wow.
And I play a Ferengi merchant who has something that's pretty important. I don't want to say too much because they're very episodic in what they do in the show, and it's very fun. They even have a whole intro, and the title comes across. For the thing. I've played all sorts of characters in that universe, from Klingons. I have a Vulcan captain who I get to have my lines opposite Zachary Quinto. I've got all sorts of different races that I've played, but I've been wanting to play a Ferengi for so long. I have the lobes to play a Ferengi. I always have. So, it was really nice when they finally decided to cast me for it.
And, you can say that without and everybody else who plays a Ferengi, they end up sounding like that because of the prosthetic teeth.
Yes,
you
exactly.
just did it right there.
I just have to sound like it without having prosthetic teeth in. But you have to do the same thing if you are playing Klingon.
Exactly.
When you're playing a
just
Klingon, you
pitch the
almost
voice
have to sound
lower.
like you have a different set of prosthetic teeth inside
Exactly.
you.
Yeah.
And have a bunch of ridges and stuff like that. So being a Star Trek fan, I'll tell you, that has been a dream come true. I mean, I'd love to do it on camera too, but being able to do it in the game and knowing the product. Okay, talk on a geek level and geek cred. Here it goes. They did this whole song in Klingon that they needed to have for a Star Trek Online episode that dealt with the coming back of the Doomsday Machine. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
Warning. Yeah. Thank you, Robot. Exactly. There was this, I get to do a Decker run as a character and a Klingon character, and they needed this character to sing a song in Klingon.
Oh my God!
They go, it's this one thing, and I go,
it's not Melota.
oh,
is it?
It's like a warrior chant. I go, oh, is it Koikelis Buklod? And they go, you know the song.
Oh, that one.
Oh, that one.
I was just thinking about that song, oddly enough, like yesterday. Interesting.
I not only knew it, I was the only one who knew it, but I also knew it in Klingon with the right pronunciations.
Oh
and
my
everything.
gosh!
I'm
got
impressed.
That part that, I mean, I'm on the short list for them as far as casting, so it's kind of nice because when you get to the point, it's taken me a while to get to this point in my career, but I actually have people call me, and I may not already be cast in a specific role, but at least they say, hey, we want to use you. Are you available? Here are some of the parts. Read it. We'll figure out which one we're going to give to you.
Wow.
So it's awesome. Oh my God. I mean, nobody loves going to auditions as an actor.
Right.
So it's
nice when they call
hard.
you and say, you have the job. This is what we want you to do.
It's an awesome feeling. I feel very blessed to be in that situation. I had that, and when we got to the studio, I did one warm-up take a cappella, and the second one, and they liked it so much, the second one we laid down, we didn't even do a safety, and they scored to my voice. So
Awesome.
that was so awesome. It was like such a win, and it felt so good, and it was like, I used to sing this? Okay, they go, how do you know this song? I go, I was in a band called the Wild Oats, and we did a lot of different stuff, and one of our guys did a lot of Klingon cosplay stuff, and we actually sang that song for one day.
Okay, well,
So
there it
I
is.
actually knew it.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Now, I'm really curious. I must admit, I have to turn on my geek card here. I'm not much of an online gamer. However,
Okay.
I am intrigued at what you're describing here. So to the uninitiated, what can they expect? What is a good reason for them to want to even investigate playing an online game? Because it sounds like that it's scenes that are already set that are recorded.
Yeah, it's you still get to advance the story. You still have to accomplish things. It really depends on what game you're talking about. In a lot of these MMORPGs, the massively multiplayer online role-playing games.
Wow.
Those are structured in such a way that sometimes you need to have other people to work with and do a cooperative thing to kill the boss, get the treasure, save the princess, all that type of stuff. Work together on a common goal. There's some that have a specific storyline that they follow out, and you trigger certain events. And sometimes they have like a decision tree, so that depending on which choice you make, different things can happen. So there's a whole variety of things out there. Some have a predetermined course that they're going to follow, and some give you more options, and you could play it again and find out a different solution, or maybe find a different way to do things. So the draw, I think, is that it's very immersive. You really bring your character in. You see these great things happen. Some players, they don't care so much about that. And, honestly, sometimes our cutscenes, they just fast forward right through them and they don't really care. Other players really enjoy that level of immersion and part of the storytelling, and have a few moments to sort of step back, and they're talking to my character now, and they're doing this with my character. So they get really involved from that level.
Intriguing, because I've seen some online games that it's hard to say. There was a lot of interaction of sorts that intrigued me, but at the time I didn't have a very strong working computer, so trying to do that would have caused my entire motherboard to melt.
Yeah, these days, the graphics requirements are pretty amazing, but some of the animations they're doing are just staggering.
Wow.
They're just so gorgeous that they're doing for these things. They're photorealistic. It depends on the game. Some are not, but they can still be very immersive in gameplay. I've done a lot of stuff myself. Some years back, I was doing, because I'm an RPG player, I played around in Second Life for a while and did a sort of an open RPG type of thing, which we didn't exactly have a full rule system. It was much more of a chat-based thing, except you actually had avatars and moved around. And we had some game masters who sort of guided the story. And this was all for Battlestar Galactica Reimagined. We were another battleship. Galactica, we didn't even know had survived. We were dealing with the Pacifica, which was from Aerolon, and had a similar type of thing where they got away and were trying to, outwit the Cylons and things like that. So we had people playing all sorts of different things. I played a Cylon agent who was kind of he was a reporter at the time, so I did a lot of interviewing of the military people, and I would instigate a lot of nasty things going on and stuff, but it was all chat based, and that was a lot of fun. So there are games like that still exist out there. They're harder to find. That's not for everyone. I mean, I come from a very heavy storyteller oriented RPG background, so I really enjoyed that. And in that game, there wasn't real damage that could happen to your character, but you could decide if you're going to die or not. Nobody could hurt you unless you allowed that to happen to your character. So there were certain ground rules so that you didn't have, munchkins coming in and doing nasty stuff to you, and you have no choice but to deal with it, like you have in some games out there where people really do work a system, and they make it really not that fun for some new players.
You said munchkins?
Yeah, munchkins. That's a gaming term.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I just happened to have that sound.
For those of you out there who aren't gamers, let's tell them what a munchkin is. A munchkin is like a person who just kind of overdoes the game system to make what they want to have happen all the time. So, and they make it not fun for anybody but themselves.
I just had that sound. I had to use it,
Yeah, you had to.
So you're, without question, if someone were to cut you, you would bleed geek.
Yeah, definitely.
So I gotta know, what was, if anything, was your I don't even know what I called it, your breakthrough drug.
Yeah.
Where did I start? Oh
yeah, that's a tough one.
That's really hard. I would say as a kid, I've already talked about Lost in Space was very important to me.
Well, I think
so was Star Trek.
Well, it's funny. I say the two of those. Lost in Space won because there was Will Robinson, so there was something for us kids too,
right?
And for us little gay
warning.
For us young gay kids, it's like someone we could kind of like, he's nice. Although I think I like Don West better, but be that as it may,
especially as an adult, yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah. Although we met, we saw.
I mean, it was like as a kid, it was so funny. Everybody was like all hooked up. Remember Flipper?
Yeah.
Everybody was all hooked on the stuff, and then like I go as an adult, it's like, God, the dad was hot.
The dad's really hot. Yeah. I really had a thing for the older brother when I was a kid, but as I grew up, I was like, that dad, I got to give him another look.
I know. It was like all of a sudden, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
It's all about the dad.
You were thinking like a kid. Yeah. Well, and the same thing with Star Trek. I mean, I remember even as a kid actually watching that on a network run, not fully understanding what it is that I was seeing at the age of 4.
Right.
But remember thinking that I had not seen anything like that before in my life.
It was so amazing. And it just, I had like some of the toys. I even had a Major Matt Mason doll, if you remember those things.
Yes.
Yeah, I have one of those with the lunar rover and all that.
The rover. I had my dad for Christmas bought me the Major Matt Nelson space station.
Well, didn't you also
I remember
have
I didn't have that one. I only had the lunar rover. But I mean, growing up at that time, that was the moon landing.
Yeah.
That was all that stuff was really happening in real life. So I think I remember watching it on TV though as a kid with my parents and being incredibly bored. And it's like that's all.
Yeah. No, and I was just like glued to the telly.
I did go home. I mean, to tie back into my astrophysics stuff in high school, I remember asking a couple of my teachers for permission to go home and watch some of the Voyager telemetry when it was coming in.
Wow.
So,
nice.
Yeah, I was that. And they go, yes, you can go home, but you must write a paper on this. And I go, deal.
Done.
So, yeah, and I did. And now I have friends that, that worked in that. I worked on the anti-coincident scintillators for a gamma ray telescope that went onto a weather balloon and studied Cygnus X1, the black hole.
Ooh,
So
interesting.
I actually did a little bit of stuff. Of course, I did the grunt work, not the science, but somebody has to do some of the grunt work related to that, because I was undergrad. I was doing that. I was getting paid to do certain stuff to make that happen. But it's still kind of neat to be able to even say that.
That you're a part of that project.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to be part of this thing that was studying a black hole. I mean, now we're finding there's lots of them. In fact, there's black holes probably at the center of every galaxy out there.
Yeah. I remember reading the story about how they, the big shocker of shocks, and that is we discovered a supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way. And I'm like, yeah. And I already figured that one out.
Exactly. It's pretty amazing, though, how much we know and how much it's leading to what we don't know. And
exactly.
I've always been kind of a metaphysicist as well as a physicist.
Yeah.
So I find these whole questions fascinating, and I just love the fact that they brought Neil deGrasse Tyson back. Didn't bring him back, but they brought Cosmos back, and they're having him tell us, lead that show that grew up with
all the new
Carl
science.
Sagan and his billions and billions of stars in this spaceship of the imagination.
Oh my God! That was scary.
That
was scary.
Thank you, Carl Sagan.
Yeah. So yeah.
So I'm just curious. What did you see that story that? I can't remember who's the one who posed it, but it was a recent black hole story that said that now scientists are saying that if you fall into a black hole beyond the event horizon, that you're not actually destroyed.
Yeah, I saw something about an experiment where there was a loop with a photon going back in time and influencing its future companion.
Really?
And it was something from an experiment in Australia, but then I saw something that said that the science wasn't quite right on that. So I don't know. I have to research that a bit more.
There was another one that said that, like, if a person were to fall through, that their body would be destroyed, but a copy of them would then be attached onto the surface of the black hole as a hologram.
Yeah. It was
how
weird.
interesting.
I read that article.
Kind of
too,
an
and I
echo
thought,
of them and of light and stuff, because it's their light form that still, the photons would still get through, but the matter that was them would be gone.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's got something to do with that whole idea that energy can neither be created nor destroyed.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, that was.
But yeah, I definitely follow up on stuff like that. It's mind-boggling, all these different ideas and things that are starting to develop, and all the stuff that we have now with this amazing computational power to chug through numbers and be able to see things that we hadn't seen before. Like, the fact that just for a film, just for Interstellar, they chugged through and they said, oh, well, that's interesting. This black hole has not just the accretion disk, but it kind of has this halo around it.
Right.
That was an artifact of doing that. Nobody had really, they crunched the numbers out before, and they never really saw that until they could really go through this massive simulation, and now that's part of science. So it's kind of interesting how entertainment kind of impacted science.
Oh, yeah, I've heard entertainment, really impacts science. I mean, all the things from Star Trek that you see today.
I mean, there's people coming out with real life tricorder things, and
I mean,
we walk
iPhone,
around with communicators all the time.
Yeah. And sick bay diagnostic beds and things like that. And I'd also read that the movie Interstellar was so scientifically strong that there's even a push now to actually have that being shown in science classes.
That's cool. I think that's cool to see that, because I think teaching science is really important, especially now when there's so many science deniers.
Thank you.
I think that where their belief trumps science. I think that, I mean, I'm all in favor of people who have their own personal beliefs. That's fine. But as far as teaching that in school, no, that's not the same. If you want to do that in private school, that's great. But in a public school, we really need to teach science, because it's provable, it expands our knowledge, it's testable, it's repeatable, all of that. And I think that tying that in with certain entertaining aspects makes it more accessible to people, gets more people interested in it. I mean, we were talking before, I went into science because of Bach.
Yeah.
Leonard Nimoy's Spock was hugely influential on me. I had a friend that I used to play growing up. We used to role play Star Trek on his driveway. Seriously, on his driveway. The garage door was the bridge, the screen.
Oh, wow.
And we had each area of the driveway worked out to the proper stations. And the two of us would role play the different characters. And
Show off.
You got all the right effects there. Which one is that? You, Keith, doing
That's
that?
Keith
Yeah,
doing
it's
it.
me.
He's being a show off.
Nicely done. Oh God, that reminds me. I want to play really bad that thing.
Damn it!
That Think Geek, old school Star Trek communicator panel that has the noise for the door thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I so want that in my office, really bad.
Yeah, he's gonna run down through the entire library he's got now. Okay, let's say we just take time. Oh, here we go.
Yeah. Anyway.
Got any Nomad on there?
I don't. I need non sequitur.
Oh, darn.
I can get that for you.
I need the non sequitur. Yes,
I can
need
get that.
Non sequitur.
Believe me, I can get that for you without any problem. I shouldn't, but I will.
Anyway, so now that we've devolved into
Totally.
madness.
Total madness.
Yeah, but that's what
Exactly.
happens when you get geeks who come together. I mean, it eventually
Exactly.
it just kind
Exactly.
of devolves into this kind
so,
of fun.
So we've talked about all of this stuff that you do.
Sure.
We've talked about Beyond the Impact, and we've talked
Right.
about the voiceover. Anything else that you're doing? Any upcoming projects? Anything
Let's see.
interesting?
I'm trying to think of other stuff. I have an animated series that's going to be coming out hopefully sometime this fall. It's called Kung Pao Heroes. It's for kids. It's going to be on the web, I believe, initially, and then they hope to take it into television. It involves a character called Tiger Li Ming. I'm the main character in that, who he finds out that he's got this sort of magical transformative kung fu power.
Kung Fu.
What was
Fu.
that? Okay.
Kung
Fu
Poof. I got to think about that one.
power. Yeah, talk about right on wrong. Okay, so he has a power of transforming into a kung fu animal. So he transforms partially into a tiger, and instead of actually fighting, they do kind of like breakdance fighting against each other
Oh, wow.
with the villains, which is kind of cute.
Interesting.
And it's a lot of
Kinky.
fun. It's the animation style is kind of cute and cool, and at the same time, so it's kind of both. And the stories are really fun, so I'm looking forward to seeing that come out. And then more BTI, as we were talking about. I have some Star Trek stuff coming up. I just had another trailer come out for this War of Mine, which is a game that's done by a Polish company that is really a very special video game. It's not like others, and the decision tree is really wide on that. It's actually to hopefully show people the horror of war instead of glorifying it. You are a person who is a refugee in your own country, in your own home, trying to survive.
Wow.
And by finding food, finding resources, teaming up with people, and your character may die. There's inspirations of real life stories that went into this game, and it's
Wow.
won a lot of awards. And
That's interesting to teach people the horror rather than the glorification of war.
exactly, and there's even I believe a charitable aspect where portions of the proceeds go to help kids who are refugees
Fantastic.
in war-torn countries. So there's a beautiful thing to that. So I'm very proud to be involved in that project. Of course, even though there isn't a lot of VO within the game itself, I've done some trailer work for them in the past for that. Strangely, I've been getting more trailer work. I don't know why that is, but yeah, I'm not exactly the deep voice type voice of God guy like Don LaFontaine was or
Yeah.
anything like that. I have friends that totally do that, but I got to do this really whacked out game for a Brazilian company that is like kind of the style reminds me a lot of John Kricfalusi's Ren and Stimpy stuff.
Oh,
So-
wild.
Totally whacked out, totally wrong, very politically incorrect.
So
And I went way over the top. I don't know the exact release name of that, but I'll be posting that on my blog when I know it. I think it was something called Something of the Apocalypse,
was
but I
this in
don't know if it.
Portuguese or was it?
I'm
in
sorry?
English? Was it in Portuguese or English?
No, yeah, originally it was in Portuguese and it was done there, but they're looking to port it to the world market.
Oh,
So.
cool.
And in order to do that, they usually come to us, English-speaking actors, to do a version in English so that they can, reach a wider audience, because much of the world does speak English.
Right.
and is used to playing games there, and it tends to do a lot better when they do that. So we call that process localization. And I've worked on a lot of different localized games before, and it can be a lot of fun. For a while, I was a character in a game called Runaway that was very much a role-playing game, and strangely enough, I played a guy who was a physics student in there. How weird is that?
I'm sensing a pattern.
Yeah. I know, Brian Basco. And strangely enough, he was a lot like me in real life. He kind of a guy thrown into circumstance. Kind of reminded me of the old Dragon's Quest, where you kind of had to click on things and do stuff. But it was more of one of those.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's kind of more of a hunt. It's one of those collection games and puzzle games where you have to get the right items and put them together, and then you talk with people and get clues.
Unfortunately, sounds like Myst to me.
Yeah, a little bit, but not so much more. It's more like a story-driven game, though, because there was a full story arc, and you become these characters and do that. And I did a couple games for Her Interactive, who does the Nancy Drew games. My friend Lonnie Manella, who's an amazingly talented voice actress, who is like part of my family. We've been friends for years. She for years was doing the voice of Nancy until just recently. But she's like a female Mel Blanc. She can do any voice. It's incredible. She does men as well as women and kids, and oftentimes kids in voice work are done by women because men's voices sound more caricatured, but women can do more convincing kids, and they don't grow up. The kids. Right. If you cast a kid, they're going to grow up and oftentimes don't have the same type of acting expertise and understanding that an adult would.
Yeah, it's like Bart Simpson.
Exactly. So, and Nancy's played Bart for how many years now?
Yeah, over 20, I think.
Yeah, 20 something. So still the same Bart Simpson that we've known and loved from the first days.
Yeah.
She's able to sustain that, where if you cast a kid, they can't do that.
Right.
Their voices change, they grow up. But
and develop attitude.
Yeah, but I did some fun things in a story-driven way with the Nancy Drew universe, where I played. Oh God, it's another theme. The first character I played actually was a geeky guy named Rentaro is the proper pronunciation, but we said Rentaro, and who was a guy who worked on the grounds of Ryokan, which is like a country inn where there was a ghost. That was Shadows at the Water's Edge, and it was a very popular character, very geeky, nerdy, awkward character that was a lot of fun to play. And then later I played a character, Mason Quinto, in Deadly Device, which was about kind of a Tesla type device being built. And in fact, they did a lot of actual history learning about Nikola Tesla in there, who's, I think, an amazing character out of history. And
absolutely.
My character in there was this very cantankerous type of guy who was doing some of the physics in that lab. So yes, another physicist.
Go figure.
I know. But I'm friends with some physicists now that are in entertainment too. Kevin Grazier is a good friend of mine who I met through the convention circuit, and he's been the science advisor on like the film Gravity, and worked on Battlestar Galactica, and he's working now on Defiance. So
wow. Oh,
excellent.
Love Defiance.
Yeah, isn't Defiance fun? I'm loving this season so far.
Yeah.
So
it's like, oh my God, they really went there.
Yeah, okay, yeah. They did that, and then that person's dead. Well, far out. Okay.
I love it. It's like Game of Thrones light with killing people. I mean, it's not as bad as Game of Thrones.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank
you very much, man. I was ready to just like break open a whole new prescription of Xanax after watching Game of Thrones.
Oh my God, I know some people who aren't going to watch it anymore after this.
My husband.
I wrote an article, and it's on our website, about I called it "A Game Too Far, Too Many Thorns." Yeah,
it was too hard for a lot of people, and there were some sequences in that one sequence with Cersei. We try not to give spoilers out, but it was very harsh for a lot of viewers. And I've seen productions on stage where they kind of push that envelope and kind of do that, and they really did that in this film. I think that it was really too hard for some members of the audience to really go through that.
Poor Sansa.
Yeah, and Sansa and what she's been going through.
My
God. Some of that isn't even from the book.
It is like, does anything good happen to anybody anymore? I don't think so.
That was my whole point in my article, is we're going to be left with a world where everybody's dead.
Yeah,
It's
and
just going to be
you
the
know,
walkers
Arya,
and the
it ends
dragons.
Bad for Arya, it ends bad for Arya. For Tyrion's the only one who doesn't quite, have a terrible ending with where he ends up in this season.
Yeah.
But still,
Yeah.
boy, that's I'll still be watching it though.
Well,
I have to think about it.
I will probably watch it just out of some very perverse curiosity, but there were days where do I really need to immerse myself in this universe that is just so unbelievably bleak?
So
my husband watched. It's one of the few shows that, because some of the genre shows I watch, like he doesn't like Orphan Black, and I love Orphan Black.
Well, that's a great show.
I mean, Tatiana Maslany. I want to be on that show and be a clone. Damn it! But if I were younger and a little bit svelter, I think I could do something like that. But that and Dollhouse would have been the perfect shows for me because of all my schizophrenic, voices and characters that I do and stuff.
Tatiana
I could do that all in one show.
She is just one of the. I think she's probably the most underrated actress in genre programming right now.
It kills me when she doesn't get Emmy nominations and stuff.
It's
because she is
undeserved.
just remarkable.
She deserves more accolade than anybody else should be receiving right now. To be able to play all these different kinds of parts. Yeah, there's a lot of editing that's going on in post to make it all fit. To be able to pull them out just like that, boom, 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 be able to switch personalities. I mean, you have to kind of wonder if there isn't some sort of textbook written on her and any kind of split personality that maybe she's already dealing with.
It's amazing because she not only plays those characters so distinctly, she plays those characters when they're pretending to be one of those other characters.
That is
that's
so
like
meta.
so meta.
The two of you.
Sorry.
No, okay. Dang, you owe me a Coke.
Yeah.
Jinx. Okay. But no, it is. It's so meta. It's amazing because she just does it so beautifully. So, but my husband doesn't like watching that. He likes watching Game of Thrones, but he gets very upset when there are no dragons shown. That's his big lament at the end. He goes, "No dragons again."
He must have been really happy with the penultimate episode then.
He was. He goes,
Yes.
"Finally," except we were both like, going, "Oh, please fly, get out of there."
Oh, I was doing big time fist pumps. It's like, yeah.
I know. It was like we were very happy with what was going on at first, but when it started getting hurt, it was like,
I know. I wasn't
no.
happy with that, but I was getting like, torch those harpies.
Oh yeah, hell yes, get them.
Did you see the post on Facebook where somebody says Daenerys and what's her name are standing there and she says we're going to die and then we have each other and then it's all of a sudden my ride's here, bye bye.
Yeah,
exactly, totally. It was that.
Leaving you in the wind.
As I bye bye, it was like it's been nice. Have fun, you guys. See you later.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I was kind of sharing Tyrion's expression like, and she's flying away?
Exactly. It's like,
huh?
I'm kind of small.
Hello?
I can fit up there just fine. I'll ride on the tail.
There's just other people here.
So
yeah, I gotta say that he's Tyrion's probably still my favorite character.
He's my favorite character in the series, no question. And he did not get enough good airplay, I think, this past season, so I'm hoping for more next year.
He's a remarkable actor. He's really a lot of fun to watch in all of his property. He was great. Did you see Knights of Badassdom?
No.
Oh my God, you guys, a genre movie, you gotta see this. It was an independent film that was made, and I went to go see it first at a screening. You can watch it online now, I think, at a bunch of different places. But it's got it's got all sorts of people. It's got him, it's got Ryan Quanten in it, who plays they're like best friends, and God, who's the third person? I'm forgetting right now. But there's quite a few people that you recognize from a lot of different shows, and they are reenactors in kind of like a LARP that's fantasy oriented, and then real magic happens and they end up having to do stuff to deal with it. Even Summer Glau is even in it too.
Wow.
So it's
and
like
did
all these
everybody
people
die?
that we know and love, and in one property, and it's hilarious. It's just, especially if you are a gamer at all or have ever been involved in like SCA or Ren Fair as well, it's even funnier.
Wow.
I'll definitely check that out then.
So we've had a wonderful conversation here with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And we didn't
We'll have to do this again.
We definitely want you back on again because I get a feeling, well, in fact,
we have a lot more to talk about.
I know there is a lot more ground that we can cover.
Oh my God, we could be doing this for days.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, because this, I am not joking. This has been just such a joy. This was fun.
Thank you. It's been fun. I've had a
fun.
great time with you guys too. This reminds me of a lot of the panels I do at conventions.
Oh, cool.
So
in fact, this weekend, speaking of which, shameless plug, I'll be doing a shameless plug thing for BTI at WesterCon, although that will have already happened probably by the time this airs. But I'm also going to be, I think, at Gaslight Gathering in San Diego, which is a steampunk convention.
Oh, cool.
And I think that's September this year. And I may be going to BentCon. Have you guys been to BentCon?
No, we
not
haven't.
familiar with that one.
That's I think that's up in Burbank in October. It's LGBT fandom oriented stuff. So
that sounds
very
great.
cool.
We will probably have you back on the air to talk about that because there's a lot of ground that we can cover with that particular topic. But in the meantime,
yes.
Is there any place on social media? I mean, for anybody who's been listening, I would recommend anybody who's listened to this interview follow Marc Biagi. You are so unbelievably entertaining. Thank you. Any place like Facebook, Twitter, any place on the inner tubes that anyone could follow you should they wish to track your progress?
Right now, the best place would be my own website / blog, which is my name, Marc with a C, last name Biagi, B as in boy, I-A, G as in girl, I.com. And I'm going to be posting some things there. I do have some links to my social media. I'm going to change the Facebook link. Right now, it's going to my personal Facebook, but I'm going to be launching a actor page that you can fan very soon.
Cool.
LinkedIn, I don't really do as much with LinkedIn, and I must apologize for Twitter fans out there. I'm not much of a personal Twitter fan. I can't say anything in 120 characters. So, well, actually, I can say things in 120 characters, but they don't fit in 120 characters or 440, whatever it is. But I do forward my blog updates to both my Facebook channel and my Twitter channel. I don't have anything else yet, but stay tuned because I might be expanding in some other areas. That's probably the best places, though, to start. And thanks so much, guys. This has been a lot of fun and absolute pleasure, and I look forward to doing it again.
Absolutely. You are definitely on our list for repeat interviews. No question about it.
Absolutely.
Right on. This has been so much fun. So, man, one of these days we'll have to meet up in person. I'd love to meet.
We're planning coming down to San Diego in September.
Excellent.
It's
Horrible
Imaginings, yes.
Oh, yeah. Horrible Imaginings Festival is coming up. So
and we're going to be down there for that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right. Well, great talking to you guys.
All right. Thanks a lot, Marc Biagi. Here are a few selected birthdays for July 6th through July 12th. On July 6th, Frida Kahlo, famed artist from Mexico. She would have been 115. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, is 79. Burt Ward is 69. Jeffrey Rush is 63. And Janet Leigh would have been 88. I forgot my...
What's your psycho sound?
My psycho sound, yeah. And Pat Paulson was born on this day, July 6th, 1927.
I actually knew him.
That's why I put him on the list. Story about
that. Pat Paulson, he ran a daycare center in San Francisco, and he was just doing comedy writing. He was submitting stuff to the Smothers Brothers, and they liked his stuff so much that they invited him on, and because he could deliver it better than anybody, he became an instant star. But prior to that, he and his wife just ran a daycare, and after my mom, when she was a single mom, she needed to go to work, so she dropped me off at his daycare place.
How about that?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool, huh? July 7th, Richard Starkey, a.k.a. Ringo Starr, is 74. And Doctor Number 3, John Pertwee, would have been 95 on July 7th. July 8th, Kevin Bacon is 56. And Igor Marty Feldman would have been 81. July 9th, Tom Hanks is 58, and Nikola Tesla was born on July 9th, 1856. July 10th, Ming the Merciless, Max von Sydow, was born in 1929. July 11th, Tab Hunter, 83. Still looks good for 83.
He looks really good for 83.
And on July 12th, Byung-Hyun Lee is 44. Why do I bring that name up?
Didn't we just see him in a movie?
Yes, we did, in Terminator.
Yes.
How about that? And George Eastman was born on July 12th, 1854.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Technorama, the podcast for geeks, because geeks are better than cool. You don't hear someone say, "Get away from me, you cool person." Who's gonna have their 65-inch home theater system installed by the Cool Squad? Not me, that's for sure. How much cool cred do you have? Not enough to care about. Think you'll find any canned unicorn meat at thinkcool.com? It's just a part domain name. They don't even have roadkill in a paper cup. That's why you need to start listening to Technorama, because that's what geeks do. Go to chuckchat.com and listen to Technorama before you turn cool.
This is Marc Biagi, and you're listening to TG Geeks Webcast. Get your geek on.
Head on over to chuckchat.com for the Technorama Rama podcast.
Bloody Vikings!
Yeah. And now it's time for some listener feedback. And last week we made a big boo-boo.
Oops.
Mea culpa. Our first and longtime listener, Brian, a.k.a. Arkle, left us feedback on our YouTube channel that I forgot to mention.
And this was about Keith's little rant on Game of Thrones. So this is what he wrote. Not gonna lie, all this stuff about Game of Thrones has me feeling vindicated. I watched the pilot with my dad when it premiered, and I just didn't care for it at all, and I never went back. Power Rangers Samurai I stuck it out for, but Game of Thrones was a pass. And Samurai was, well, it was better than Turbo or Operation Overdrive, I'll give it that much. But suffice to say, Samurai was not a good kickoff for the Neo-Saban era. Anyway, back to Game of Thrones. I never had HBO in my own house to begin with, but I didn't go for it on DVD either. Like I said, saw the pilot, didn't like it, moved on. I can't speak to the books. My mom and stepfather read the first two while he was working on a licensed Song of Ice and Fire RPG that fell through, and they hated them and were actually relieved when the company my stepfather was working for lost the license so they wouldn't have to read the rest of the books that were out at the time. But Game of Thrones, the show somehow seems to suffer from the thing that made me give up on 24 about 2 seasons later than I should have. I'm not Linkara. I'm not against main character deaths in shows geared toward more mature audiences. Mature in the actual sense of the word, not the porn sense of the word. Be it in film, TV, or comic books, but it has to mean something. It needs to be shocking when it happens. But for shows like 24 and later Game of Thrones, and from what I hear Supernatural, another one I have no desire to watch ever, is that character deaths happen so often that they lose their impact and just become part of the drinking game.
Tell us
Wow.
how you really feel,
I
Arkle.
know. Wow. Don't hold back, please. Please, what are you really thinking, Brian, there?
Yeah. If you have a comment, you can comment on our Facebook page, YouTube episodes, or at tggeeks.com. You could receive a shout out on a future episode. That is, if we happen to remember to look for the comments. Sorry about that. Or you could call our listener line, feedback line, and we'll play your comment on air. 469 TG Geeks. That is 469-844-3357. And a special note, if you're a Skype user, you can look us up on Skype. We are TG Geeks. Send a request for an ad, and we'll add you, and you can call us on Skype and leave a voicemail.
Oh, we got a couple of things you just want to touch on really briefly. Keith and I finished watching Sense8. I know we're probably a little bit behind the times for most people as they mainline the crud out of it. we kind of took our time with it, but we finally finished it. And oh wow, am I sorry it's over.
Yeah, it was really great. I really enjoyed that tremendously.
The dynamics in the characters I thought were great. I wrote up a whole review for it, so if anybody really wants to know what I think, all you got to do is just go to our website, tggeeks.com, and you can see a nice lengthy little tome I wrote about it. But
and I pretty much agree with what you wrote in your article. I really liked it. I liked the way that they began to play off of each other and work as a team, if you will.
Yeah,
to help each other.
I think that's one of the things that I really liked about it, in that it wasn't so much about them all coming together because they were all threatened by this one evil, if you will, but each little group in the cluster had their own problems that they had to deal with, and it's like they all had each other's back. And
exactly, it was great,
and it was fantastic to watch. I just loved it.
Yeah, if you haven't watched Sense8, give it a shot. Try to get through the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of universe building, setting things up. But episode 4 is like, oh my God.
Yeah, once you get into episode 4, actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the end of episode 3 that you finally get your big wake up call.
Yeah,
and,
I think
and
so.
Then you get hooked.
Yep.
But from then on, it just becomes one heck of a roller coaster ride, and the individual characters themselves become just even that more interesting.
Exactly. And we also saw Terminator Genesis this.
Yeah, we just saw that
a
few days ago, and I have a review for that up there as well. I will say, oddly enough, that I seem to stand in opposition to most people on this. What did you get from this? Now, you really weren't a big follower of the Terminator franchise.
No, not really. But I thought it was a really good. It was a good movie, and I think it was a good follow up to the second movie. I think it's much better than the other stuff that they turned out.
Absolutely agreed. So yeah, if you want to see what I think, just go to, again, our website at tggeeks.com. And then also a couple of days ago, we had the enormous pleasure.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, this was so much fun. We got to attend a sci-fi film festival. It was called the Phoenix Loves Sci-Fi. And it was just this nice little science fiction film festival that really featured a lot of local filmmakers.
It was incredible. I mean, they showed 21 shorts, and all of them were absolutely incredible. I mean, even the ones that really didn't turn us on were still good, in the sense that they were, some of the ones that we did see, some of the 21 were by local filmmakers and from all over the world, as a matter of fact. But the ones by the local filmmakers were really good, and we would suggest that support your local filmmakers, the local film festivals, any film festival that you have an opportunity to go to. You're going to see some really good stuff.
And it goes to show that the art of filmmaking is still very, very much alive. And if anybody wants to know what Keith and I thought about the film festival itself, once again, just go to our website, tggeeks.com. We both wrote a nice little write-up on what we saw there and the various shorts that just kind of really pushed our geek buttons in a big way.
Yeah, and we want to give a special shout out to Cassandra Nicholson, who is the outreach coordinator at the Walter Cronkite School for Journalism at ASU. She was the one that put this thing together in conjunction with Phoenix Film Festival, among others. But a special shout out to her for curating this film festival. I hope that they get to do it again. Maybe every 6 months they could do it, or
well,
quarterly.
At least every year. But I would like for this to be a regular event.
I would love to see it as a regular event.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
It was just so much fun.
You bet.
This is Marc Biagi, and you're listening to the Two Gay Geeks webcast. You name it, they'll talk about it.
Next week, we have another special interview. We can't talk about it because there might be some spoilers. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We may have several links on the page. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 844-3357. From TG Squared Studios in Phoenix, Arizona, I am Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. I bid you peace.
Cheers.
Ha